bad news is that the majority of video editors are average, which is why they aren't landing the clients they really want and they aren't making the amount of money that they would like to make. But the good news is that there is one shift that's honestly pretty simple to make, but it's gonna get you so much closer, especially over time after you get good at implementing this shift, but it's gonna get you so much closer to going from average to that top 1% editor and working with your dream clients and making 10K per month, all these things. How do I know this? Is because actually myself, I went from 0 to 10K a month with video editing, and I think this shift is what separated me from the majority of editors. Right now, every day I'm thinking with so many editors, and I see this gap, first of all, between average and top 1% get bigger and bigger every single day. But also I see that those who implement this shift, their video editing career completely skyrockets and they start landing all these clients that they really wanted to land. Because these higher paying clients, they want you to know the shift. They want you to implement this shift in their videos, and that's exactly what they're ready to pay thousands for. It just problem is they don't realize it themselves, which is why they can't explicitly tell you, okay, do this, and it's not even their job. But as an editor who has worked with those higher paying clients, I can tell you that this thing is a complete game changer. And if you start implementing it after watching this video, half a year from now, you're gonna look back and realize, oh shit, my video editing career actually got so much better just because of this one thing that I started implementing half a year ago. The shift that I'm talking about is essentially shifting your attention while creating animations or graphics for your video, shifting the attention from how to show something to what to show in that animation. Let me explain. The majority of editors, what they're gonna do is they're gonna honestly phone in their video. What's gonna happen is they're gonna be editing it and they need to create graphics and animations for the video to look cool. But that's the only purpose of these animations that they're gonna be creating. So they're gonna be spending time creating them in order to make the video seem sort of cool and valuable and for the client to accept the video and not be mad about it and pay them money. However, the issue with these animations that's made just for the sake of making the video look cool and sort of acceptable by the client is that they actually add absolutely nothing to the viewer. The viewer doesn't care about how cool the video looks. The viewer cares about the thumbnail and the title that they have seen. They got interested in the topic and they're curious about what the video has to say. The random animations that you're adding just for the sake of making the video look cool add nothing in that equation that I just sort of walked you through of the thought process of the viewer. Now, what top 1% editors do is they add animation in order to make the video make more sense for the viewer. So they actually add context to the video with their animations. Top 1% editors are actually using their brain while editing. They're keeping in mind what the viewer is thinking and what the viewer is curious about. They're using that knowledge to sort of inform their animations. So the idea behind the animation is what really matters. What you show in the animation is so much more important than how you show it. All the deep glows and stuff like that that you apply in order to make the animation look cool. If your idea is trash and if the animation adds no extra context to the viewer, it doesn't make the video make more sense for the viewer, it doesn't engage the viewer more, then all the deep glows and fancy effects that you're adding, they literally do nothing except maybe even distract the viewer. So what you need to do is you need to adopt the viewer's perspective and sort of just insert yourself into their brain and try to understand the thoughts that they're having while watching this video and actually start ideating your animations. Don't just, think, oh shit, I haven't done any animations for 2 minutes in this video, so let me just randomly pop something here up so that it seems to my client like I'm putting a lot of effort into this video. Instead, add animations at times where they're actually needed to make the video better for the viewer. Top 1% editors, trust me, all of them do that. Before they start creating the animation, they already know exactly how it's gonna look like. This does two things. First of all, the time that it's gonna take you to create the actual animation is gonna be way less because all you would need to do is to essentially put your vision that you have in your mind into, Premiere or After Effects, and then the animation is going to be ready. You would need to do no guesswork. But also the second thing is that the animation is genuinely going to be better because you put that time into ideating what you're going to show in the animation. What I personally really like to do is, especially for the intro, but also later on in the video as well, for the intro, what I do is I think through the whole intro from the very beginning. Before I even create the first animation for the intro, I already know how the whole intro is gonna look like. Again, it just saves me time while actually executing on that vision because, I'm not gonna create the animation that's gonna happen like 3 seconds into the video and then I'm gonna realize, oh, it should have actually went like 15 seconds into the video because there it fits better. No, I already know what's gonna happen at 3 seconds. I already know what's gonna happen at 15 seconds. And this also makes the intro better because I'm not just creating these animations in a vacuum. I'm looking at the full picture of the intro, and the same thing for the actual video. So let's say you're editing a video about 5 ways to make money online. What you should really do is you should keep in mind all 5 ways and not just like create these random ass animations that are going to be only good in a vacuum for only the phrase that's being said right now. Especially it's going to be useful to create those graphics where you can see all 5 ways to make money online on screen, and then you're using that graphic continuously throughout the video. You're popping it up to guide the viewer throughout the story, throughout the video. And again, by doing that, you're adding more context to the video. You're making the video make more sense to the viewer, because when you pop up the 3rd way to make money online, they can see that there are 2 more to go and they've already sort of saw the first 2. So that's just extra context for the viewer. That's, first of all, it's going to make them more curious about what's actually happening in those last 2, but also it's going to make the video seem so much more valuable because they already see these first 2 ways of making money online that they just learned. Spotting patterns in your videos and little stories like that, storylines, is very important because what you're going to be then able to do is think through the whole storyline and create the very first graphic while keeping in mind the whole thing so that it then flows into the 2nd graphic and the 3rd graphic and so on. An example from my work would be I was editing this video where the guy first sort of shared the blueprint of how to build a business step by step, and then he told a story of how he actually built his own business. It was never said by himself, or it was never said in the video, but funnily enough, the story that he told of how he built his own business followed perfectly the steps that he outlined in that blueprint. So I spotted that pattern, and in the graphic that I created for the blueprint, I already knew that I'm gonna reuse basically same exact graphic for his story, because I wanted to storytell that, okay, this guy did for his own business exactly what he told you to do, and it's gonna improve the video but by so much because, first of all, again, it's gonna make it more sense for the viewer because now the viewer has a real world example of how this blueprint can be applied to an actual real world business, but also it's gonna position the guy more of as an authority because he sort of follows his own advice. And also it even saved me time because I was able to spot this little storyline and I was able to essentially reuse this first graphic for the blueprint for his story as well. It ended up literally saving me time while making the video better. All because I took some, brain power and actually time to use my brain and try to spot this pattern. And I realized that if I reuse the same graphic like I did for the blueprint for his story, it's gonna make the video only better, not worse. Instead of making 2 random graphics that are gonna be totally disconnected, the viewer isn't gonna be able to make this sort of connection on their own. So this is exactly what I want you to start doing. Start putting way more thought into what you're gonna show instead of how you're gonna show it. How you're gonna show it matters as well, but trust me, when you have this really good idea for the animation, then how you're gonna show it honestly comes naturally. You aren't even thinking all that much about it. You're just genuinely creating what's gonna make the video better, and you're also not gonna be stressing about things like making it seem the video is worth the money that the client is paying for. And funnily enough, your rates, trust me, are gonna skyrocket because what's gonna happen over time, this is a skill that you need to develop, right? So this is not something that's gonna happen on your next video. This is a skill that you from now are gonna be working on continuously. But what's gonna happen, your editing is genuinely gonna improve so much because also when I made this shift, what happened over time is I completely stopped running out of ideas what to show for animations, because a very common problem I hear from editors is that I want to add an animation here, but I just can't come up with an idea. There are a couple of different reasons for that, and I'm gonna make a separate video on this topic exactly, but the main reason for that, honestly, is because the editor wants to add an animation that's just gonna make the video look a bit cooler and the animation isn't even needed. Or it can also be the fact that the editor hasn't spotted that pattern, and if they did, the animation would just be so obvious. That's exactly what happened to me. When I started putting thought into what to show with my animations, into making the video make sense for the viewer, it just became obvious which animations to make. Because sometimes you would honestly be, or not sometimes, this is the main point, that you're adding extra context to the video, and sometimes you wouldn't be showing exactly what's being said or something like that. So if you wanted to create this animation in a vacuum, if you had this literally just one phrase that you're making an animation for, you wouldn't be able to make this animation, because it also depends on what happened earlier in the video and maybe even teasing what's going to happen later in the video to make the viewer stay. Hopefully this all is starting to make sense to you, and yeah, your actionable step is to essentially start putting actually time into ideation. You don't need to have some extra process like I saw people are using Miro boards and whatever. I don't have any of that. Literally, like I told you for the intro, what I do is I just watch the whole intro. In my head, I start building up the animations and graphics that I'm gonna put in the intro, and then at those places where I'm gonna have a graphic, I put an empty text layer in Premiere that I'm gonna later replace with an After Effects composition. That makes it super easy because I can see all the text layers and I know where the animations are gonna go. And just because it's not gonna be weeks later that I create these animations, I'm not gonna forget the idea. But also you can, on that text layer, you can not have it empty, but you can actually write down the idea for the animation. For some editors that helps as well, but you don't need to have a crazy process. If you just genuinely start thinking about this, if you start adopting the viewer's perspective, always remembering what the viewer came to this video for, then over time you're gonna develop the skill and you're gonna be spending less time creating animations. You're gonna never run out of ideas for animations because it's just gonna be so obvious of what to put in that specific animation. And also you're gonna be able to make way better videos that are actually nicer to watch for viewers. I think it's such a shame if you are spending your time creating animations in order just to make it seem for the client like the video was worth it. Because think about it, you're literally making no impact in the world, like in the grand scheme of things. You're sitting there creating animations that the client doesn't care about, that viewers don't care about, and all your work that you're putting in just goes into the void. Without it, the video would have been the exact same way. The viewer would still watch it because your animations add nothing. However, if you spend your time creating animations and making the video actually nicer to watch for the viewer with these animations, then you're making a hell of an impact because you're making the video actually nicer to watch for the viewer. So that's it for today. You have your actionable item and the new skill to start learning, starting your next video. And if you found this video valuable, then that means you actually want to improve in your video editing and start making more money, land those better paying clients, then click the first link in the description and fill out the application. Based on the results of the application, I'm gonna know exactly how to help you, and you're gonna be redirected to the exact thing you need to take your video editing career to the next level. See you in the next one. Peace.